Hello friends, welcome back to 7 Days to Die. This is a special episode. Holy buckets of fire! Oh yes. So we are doing some fun things. I'm going to show you guys. Let's zoom in a little bit more with our bow, right? Oh, you want some fire? You want some fire, huh? Oh, maybe now? Oh, you're just gonna die. How about you? Want some fire? Oh, you're just gonna die. Alright, so what do I have in my hands? It does not have an icon because the Unity assets are packed and the editor, synchronous recipe editor is now, which will unpack the assets. And I don't know how to do that. Come on, give me another burn. There we go. Look at that. Hello. So I am utilizing my own little custom... Oh, just quiet. My custom composite bow with custom iron arrows made with a custom skill book. Congratulations, I am level awesome. Let me kill these guys, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this. Really? You're not dead yet? Oh. Whoa, Spaz Boy. Alright, so let's take a look from start to finish. Alright, and as usual, we are going to be starting with our 7 Days to Die, or our Steam Apps Common 7 Days to Die data config directory, where all of our config XML files are stored. Now, this is a little bit of a special one because we're going to be touching multiple XML files, 3 as a matter of fact, in order to make sure we get these new items into the game. And what are we going to be making? We're going to be making, first, a skill book, because I think that making a composite bow should be locked behind a skill book that you've got to find. Number 2, we have to make the composite bow itself. And number 3, we have to make the iron-tipped arrows. Now, the flame effect I added on there just for fun, but we could very easily make a flaming arrow as well. However, weapons do not have alternate fire modes as of yet, so you would basically need to create a composite fire bow, and that composite fire bow would only use, for example, arrow fire, so it wouldn't be able to use other kinds of arrows. And in fact, like, this composite bow has its own special kind of arrow it needs to use. So we're going to go through all of that and show you guys how it all works. And in the process, we'll explore 3 files: the items.xml file, the recipes.xml file, and take a quick peek at the loot.xml file. Because what we want to do is we want to put our crafting book into the world so it can be found. And we put it in the books loot category. So first thing first, let's open up the items.xml file. Now you'll see that my custom recipe is already in here, or custom items are already in here, but we'll go down to those in just a second. So at the very beginning of this XML file, there is a lot of documentation. The pimps have done a good job of really spelling out all of the different properties, and not necessarily all the properties that are used, but you can generally find an item that's similar to what you want to do or has an effect that you want to do in the game, and then copy that piece of it. All right, so first things first, they've got how to build pistol parts, whatnot. So it all starts again, just like normal, items. And then we have each item has an individual and unique ID. Now, you will need to be aware and on top of every item you add in, and make sure it has a unique and consecutive item ID. So down here at the very bottom, I've added my own little section, custom items by Rongo. So the last item in the game is item number 744. So I created my 3 items as 745, 746, and 747. Now, these numbers will vary if you add additional items to the games. You'll need to make sure that you keep on top of it. If you duplicate a number, I think that probably the last item would be the one that would load, or you'll get an error, etc. So you want to make sure that you have them in consecutive order, and you've got them not, that they have to be unique numbers, and that is on you. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the 3 items that I created, and that'll give us a pretty good idea of how things work in the game. So first item is our book. Now we're going to call it Bow Crafting Book. And I added the word book in there so it makes it easy to find. There is a translations text, an English translations text file somewhere in the game, and I have not been able to find it. I think it's probably packed in. And if you're watching this and you know exactly where that file is, let me know. But I did not find it. So I've got a little file here with all my pieces that I needed in there. So if you go in the game and you look up this thing here, you're going to see Bow Crafting Book. You're not going to see, Guide to Advanced Archery, for example, as the title of the book. That is just an issue with that translation file that translates these in-game asset names to translated names. So there should be a file somewhere that basically has those comparisons. It's a dictionary, lookup dictionary, basically. So anyway, I will learn later on where that is and see if we can unpack it and then modify it better. So you get mesh files. This is basically how the object is handled in 3-dimensional space. That's the mesh and textures for the object itself. Material hold type. There are hold types defined at the top of this file. Some up here, and they're not all defined. They only have 4 of them defined. So you have to kind of figure. Again, using a same items. I just used it. I basically just copied a regular book and then just changed things. Does that make sense? Okay. Stack number, how high it stacks. So if you wanted, for example, your iron ingots to stack to 256, you could go into those iron ingots, for example, iron. Oops, I don't want to do that. Find iron ingot. Generally, a second. Oh, nope. There we go. Ingot. Ingot copper, ingot iron. So it's ingot iron. Right now they stack to. Where's their stack value? Interesting. They don't have a stack value. That, I wonder if there's a default stack value of 64, which is why everything stacks to 64 by default. So if you wanted to do something different, you'd have to go in here and you could take this stack number, copy that, and paste it into that iron ingot, and then you would be able to stack 250 of them. So by default, they kind of inherit a base class of object and how many things they can stack to. And 64 must be the default value for that. So that makes sense to me. Okay, so then it's got an action. Now, some items have multiple actions. This has one. Basically, when you click the right-click button, you'll cause the action to happen. I think action 1 is the right click and action 0 is left click. Here in this case, it's a property. This is what the action is in the class is learn recipe. So there's a class of things called learn recipe. So that basically fires off a task in the system that says, okay, do this process, basically add these recipes to the character, and you can have a comma separated list of all the recipes that you want to learn. You got a description and a title, delay, start, sound, that kind of just miscellaneous crap here. You don't need to worry about it. If you want it to burn longer, you could change the fuel value on it or something like that. So pretty straightforward, I hope. These groups, special items, these are defined in the groups.xml file. Basically, it gives a color to stuff. It doesn't really, it doesn't matter too much. It just gives you a background color on the icons. Now, again, the icons themselves are packed and tied to the asset name, which is why we don't have icons for our things. But I'm assuming later on, once the and I think I even saw it out today, but I didn't actually have time to go look at it. But Bloodslinger's recipe editor will allow you to extract the asset files, so you can have the actual icons for your recipes. But it doesn't matter to me as long as the icon is in my hand. The actual object's in my hand, I can see it. That's fine. I don't care if the icon in the toolbar isn't there. So, anywho, so this defines the book. So basically, we have set it up so that when we click it and read it, we learn the two recipes: composite bow and arrow iron. So if I go to my recipes file, which is very similar to the recipes file as it existed back in. I should move this down. Oops. As it existed in, sorry about that. Whoop. Alpha 10. So if you look at my recipes file there, you'll get more explanations as well. But in here, we have to do all the recipes by hand. So I will explain them all by hand, basically. So we've got two recipes in here. We'll go back to the items in just a momento. So two recipes. We have arrow iron, and we have composite bow. So recipe name arrow iron gives me 1 arrow. I'm gonna go ahead and change it to 2. By default, the arrows give you 5 now, but I wanted to make these a little more expensive because they are really strong. Scrappable, no. And scrappable true means that you can basically, when you damage it, it will decay to something. Craft time, how long it takes to craft it, how many experience points you gain when you craft it, and how many experience points you gain when you unlock this recipe. These are awesome. If, for example, you wanted to be Cheaty McCheaterson and level up quickly, you could do something like go to the wood frame, which you get 2 experience points for making each wood frame. You could change that to like 200, and you would get 200 experience points every time you crafted a wood frame. Cheaty McCheaterson. But if you want to level up quickly, that's the way you could do it. So then this is basically the definition of how items are placed on the grid. The grid starts at 0, 0. It's a 5 by 5 grid. We're all familiar with that. And I'll show you in the game what that looks like. So basically we say 0, 0 point, we have a stick. 1 up from that, which is -1 in the Y direction, is scrap iron. And then 1 down from 0, 0 is a feather. So that gives us 2 arrows for each feather we get. And it uses scrap iron, so it is fairly expensive to create these. Next one down here is composite bow. This is the bow itself. You get 1 bow. Takes 45 seconds to craft it. Again, 2 and 20, which is the defaults. Now, obviously, this has a lot of ingredients. It uses yucca fibers for the bowstring. Uses 1 more than the regular bow. Sticks, same pattern of sticks as the regular bow, but then I layer on some femurs along the outside edge and tie it all together with leather strips. So basically, you've got a leather strip wrapped bow and composite bow, which is kind of like how bows are actually made. So I will show you again how this works in game on the crafting table. But for right now, these are the 2 recipes that we created. And again, I will go probably more into these when I've got a chance to play around with the new Bloodslinger's recipe editor, because I think it's going to be much easier to show you guys visually than to show you guys here. However, at this time, I'm also going to find shopping cart. Oh wait, that's not a recipe. Nope, sorry, wrong, bad, wrong, go bad. All right, we are done with the recipes.xml file. We've created 2 items, arrow iron, composite bow. That's all we got to do. Places the items on the grid, all set. Should be pretty straightforward. Back to the items.xml file. All right, so we have the book defined. The next stage was the bow. And what I did, I just basically copied and pasted the bow because I wanted the basic bow setup. I did make a few changes. So for example, degradation, value of 500. The default is 250. So this bow is twice as strong as a regular bow. Secondly, I added this property, repair tools, value, leather strips. This means that you can repair this bow using leather strips. And leather strips by default have a certain repair value to them. So if we go up and look at leather strips, next. These are all things that can be repaired with leather strips. So they've got repair amount 10. So leather strips only repair 10 damage to an item. So keep that in mind. This is a fairly expensive repair job as well. All right, so we'll go back down here. Okay, materials, the type of material as far as like hitting it is that hold type is 27. Again, these are predetermined animations for how to hold things, how long it would burn for, and then action 1. So this is the left click action, and this is the right click action. So on the left click, we've got basically this class catapult, which is the firing for an arrow. They called it that just because they wanted to. Delay, I've been playing around with this value, seeing if it basically I can speed up. And it does seem to speed things up just slightly. Range, I believe the default was on a regular bow was 200. So I increased the range on the composite bow as well. Magazine size, I suppose if you wanted to, you could make like a repeating crossbow with maybe a 5-bolt magazine, which could be kind of fun. Reload time, I dropped this down. It was 0.9. I dropped it to 0.5 so you can reload it faster. Then all these sounds, which again will vary based on the item itself. And then this max strain time, I think, is how long you can hold it before it starts costing you stamina. But I did not play with this. And I'm gonna pay more attention and kind of learn more about this max strain time value. Property 2, action 1 here. This is the right click action, and I set it that by default the other bow zooms from 35 to 35. So basically you can zoom. It zooms in slightly. I changed it so it's a variable zoom, so you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out between 35 and 55 value. And I'll show you more about that in the game again. Group, again, this is just the color background that gets applied to it. A preview, which I'm assuming is based on the icon. And then the last item we created was the arrow iron. So again, we just copied the regular arrow asset and we just modify it from there. This again stacks to 250, burns for 8 seconds, and the action is the only action on this. It's got a class of projectile, damage entity 60. I actually went ahead, I lowered it to 60. I actually had bumped this up to 120. One moment. All right, don't be annoying to me. Rug. It sucks when you get old and you forget your glasses, your reading glasses at work, and all of a sudden you find yourself unable to see the keys in your keyboard. All right, I also doubled the damage, block damage. I doubled it from 5.2. So basically, these arrows are just tough. They're iron tipped, you know, etched iron awesomeness. No explosions. If you really felt like you could try to replicate an explosion, maybe make exploding arrows, which probably work out, but you might end up exploding yourself as well. Velocity, I increased it just slightly from 400 to 500. No fly time, no lifetime. And then the buff. Here you can see I added burning. If you add burning, you can modify its percentage chance by adding a comma for each effect you add on there. I'm going to take that back off because it doesn't need to burn. But like I said, if you wanted to, you could create a second arrow like iron, like arrow fire. And then what you would do is this iron here needs to tie to the magazine item here. This tells the bow what item to fire. If that hopefully makes sense. The arrow has all the damage stats, but it has to match up to the weapon. So if you wanted to have a different kind of arrow, you would need a different bow as well to fire the two different ones. So if you could have a composite bow fire, you would say iron fire, arrow fire, have an arrow fire in here, have a new recipe called arrow fire, etc. But for now, I'm making sure that this matches this, which matches the file in the recipes file. So we now have just a bleed out, 75% chance of a bleed out. It does 120 points of damage to entities, 10.4 damage to blocks, no velocities, high velocity, no explosions, and the default bonus values to head, it does 6 times damage to head. So this thing would do 720 points of damage to a head. Pretty darn good. So again, these are values you can play with. You can set them to be weak or strong or whatever. You can modify the arrows themselves to do more damage and the crossbows to do more damage, etc. And again, these values are then modified by your game settings. So if you were playing on Insane, then it would be, for example, rather than 120, it would be a quarter of that. So it would be 40 points of damage for your damage. Hopefully that makes sense. So, arrow iron, composite bow, and a crafting book. Now, I am going to go in here. I promised, and I just remembered. It's kind of funny that I forgot my glasses, and someone had mentioned that they also wanted to. Can I actually increase the font size in this? One moment. Okay, I zoomed in a tiny little bit here, so that hopefully this will be a little easier to read for some folks, myself included. I don't know why I didn't do that originally. I'm like, oh, I can't see anything. All right, so again, we have our bow crafting book, stack value to 50, action 1, learn the recipe, a title, a description, which recipes it unlocks, the delay, fuel value, how much it'll burn for, weight, and that is not applied yet, which is interesting. Maybe they'll have a weight later on. The composite bow with item number 746, same mesh as the regular bow, stacks to 1, degrades 500, gets repaired by leather strips, wood, and then the action catapult, delays down, ranges up, magazine size is the same. The magazine item is iron or arrow iron. I keep saying that backwards. I don't know why. I've reduced the reload time from 0.9 to 0.5. And everything else is the same except for the zoom max out. I increased to 55, so it's a little more zoom. I wanted to use a sniper scope on it, but they have actually removed the sniper scope from the game, and I didn't want to, rely upon an item you couldn't get. So maybe later on, if they add binoculars or something like that, you could make a recipe that used binoculars and like break them in half or something like that. Then the iron arrow again, ID 747, pretty much same recipe, same item as a regular arrow. I just modified the damage to entities, the damage to block, its velocity slightly, and I increased the buff chance from 0.5 2.75. All right, so those are all in there. There's one last thing I want to show you guys, and that is you know me and my shopping carts. Oh, it's a block. It's a block. It's a block. Okay, one other last thing. In the loot.xml file, this is where loot items are found. So we're going to look for book. So this is rare books. And I want to actually move the bow crafting book into the rare book, because I think that should be a rare book. So basically, in order to find this book, you have to have a, so each item has a loot group that it pulls from. So this would be in a, maybe in a bookstore in one of the bookshelves that has a chance of having an item from the loot group rare books. I'll go into this more in detail later on. But basically now, my bowcrafting book is now in the game, and it's findable inside of rare drops. It could come from a supply drop. It could come from a kill of a cop or a feral, or be found in a Duna Noble bookstore. All right, and there was one last thing I was going to show you. This one, ignore this being very much. We're going to find shopping cart empty. I added a property can pick up equals true to both the shopping cart and the shopping cart empty, so that I can pick them up. And if you destroy them, they'll drop a shopping cart. So if you whack it on with your pickaxe, rather than getting some metal, scrap iron, you actually pick up a shopping cart, and you always get an empty one. So like here, when you destroy this shopping cart, I actually return an empty shopping cart. So you'll hit with your pickaxe and it'll spawn, and I'll show you what that looks like in the game. So, all right, let's go ahead. Now I'm gonna start up a new game and show you how all this stuff works. So give me one moment. All right, here we are in the world. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into creative mode, and so I can spawn in the book I need. So first thing we're gonna do is go to book. Now it doesn't have an icon because we don't have that in there, but I can shift click, get one in there, read it. Now watch this. Recipe unlocked composite bow, and recipe unlocked arrow iron. So there's my two recipes, learned, self-smarted. And now let's get our stuff. I need some plant fibers. I need some sticks. Oops, sticks. I need feathers. I need scrap iron. I need some femurs. And I need some leather strips. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our bow first. So that's composite bow. There it shows up. So here's our recipe. So again, if you look at this, this is 0, 0. It goes -1 or -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. All 0 in the y-axis. And then up, down, it's -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So this is 2, 2. This is -2, -2. All right, so when you find your recipes, I say do it unless you're going to use an editor, which will hopefully be out here very shortly. So yeah, I just changed the recipe up just a little bit from what it was in default, just to give it a little more oomph to it. Nice bone wrapped, craft that. We get our nice composite bow. Again, no icon, but all the other details are there. Repair leather strips. See that? Okay. Now we got to make our arrows. And we should get 2 for 1. Oops, I forgot to spawn in some feathers. Oh no, I didn't. I did have them. All right. I should have known the recipe was bold. So, all right. So then we got 128 of these arrows. Let's do this. Let's go find some foes. Here we go. They don't even know what's going to hit them. So I right click. Now I can zoom. Whoa, how did you live through that? So this thing kills really well. We are playing on warrior difficulty. So we're doing slightly less damage than you would think to everything. But if we look in here, our arrows are doing 120 points of damage. So we're 100, yeah, we're 100, 75% chance of causing a bleeding effect. Which of course zombies don't bleed out. But look at it, look at the easy kills. And the fact, oops. And the fact that you can zoom in and out with your scroll wheel. And again, if you wanted to zoom more, you always could. So, I think it's awesome. I think anybody can do this. So, if you're interested, just follow through on this instructions and you will learn. And the last thing I'll show you guys, let's go ahead and kill one more zombie because fun. He's all, what happened? What happened, honey? I don't know. Can't remember. I got killed. Oh, it helps if you actually aim and kill. All right, last thing we'll do here, shopping carts. Someday they'll move. And I can just pick them up. Or if I have a pick, now I get a cute little spinny shopping cart. Awesome. All right, friends, I hope you've enjoyed that. It was a little longer than normal, but I thought it was kind of a cool way of showing you guys a few of the files mixed together. And if you'd like me to go over in detail more of just the items, for example, I probably will do that anyway. And then again, recipes I will cover in much more depth once Bloodsinger's Recipe Editor comes out, because it's much easier to show you visually all the properties and stuff than to try and do it all in code. It gets a little confusing thinking about the grid positioning of items that way. So, anywho, I hope you have enjoyed. If you do, click that like button, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, your family, tell your grandma that you learned today how to make a freaking awesome bow in your favorite game. I'll talk to you later. Bye! Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Shh. Shh. Wow, what a huge cavern.